I would love for people to be really good at my game, like amazing at it. And when I see a playtester just play my game for the first time, I can't help but notice that there's a giant gap between the skill that the playtester has and what I can pull off in the game. Now, a lot of you might be saying, that's a good thing to have, Ben. A high skill ceiling is really important in a game. And you're right. But there's this weird thing that happens where you want your player to get good. And you have to teach them. And that's what this video is going to be about, is how do you teach your player to get good? To become an awesome player of the game, or at least try to get up to a standard that you really want them to be. I want to rewind. I'm not trying to say that I'm the best gamer at my game already, which I am very good. But my friends have proven me time and time again that they are better than me. And I have to say that because they beat me on so many times on my leaderboard. So screw you, David and Josh. Sorry, I had to get that out of the way. The reason why I really want to make people good at my game is because of this idea of a gameplay moment. And it's a feeling, an idea of when a person experiences this gameplay from your game, they'll be hooked. And I feel like Lumina Rush has that. And I've shown it time and time again, but this is just an example of something that is that feel of it. You'll notice that there's a lot of mechanics that are being pulled off right there, but it all pulls off that smooth feeling of start to end of cleanly getting through the level. If people can pull that off, then that's amazing. But I have to teach them all the mechanics to be able to do that and to do it confidently. When I first started making the early levels for Lumina Rush, I decided to teach, but teach fast. And what I mean by that is teach a mechanic and then move on to the next mechanic almost as quickly as possible. Each level would have a mechanic they would teach and then move on to the next one. The reason I felt like I needed to do that is because I was terrified of people getting bored of the game. If I didn't rush to get them to the meat and potatoes of the core that is Lumina Rush, then I felt like people would get bored and leave the game. Now, when people started playtesting the game, they started to be really frustrated. Because when you learn a mechanic and then move immediately on to the next one, it feels like a steep curve. You feel like you're moving on to the next thing without even like getting your footing down. And there's this analogy that I can't help but feel where it's like starting at the bottom of a mountain. The top of the mountain is being able to do everything in the game like a boss, like an expert. The bottom is the beginning. Square one. You start the game, you start playing at level 1. What I was trying to do was give people massively steep inclines to move up and giving them no place to just kind of chill and feel like they're confident. Imagine you're climbing up a mountain and you just have to keep climbing. You don't get to stay or feel like you have solid footing anywhere. You just have to sprint up the mountain to get to the very top, and then you can enjoy it. That's what my game felt like, I realized. And once I realized that, I realized I needed to take a different approach towards these beginning levels, this tutorialization. So I realized that I needed to do that. And I was first scared about that, because if I was going to take more levels to teach people mechanics, I felt people were going to get bored. But then I had this like epiphany moment where I was watching like a 5-year-old playtest my game. He just came up and just started playing it. And he was having so much fun with just jumping around. And I realized that the base of the game is still fun and it's still good. And I don't have to sprint to get to all the crazy stuff that's going to happen. I can kind of slow build my way up there. And that's not a bad thing. So I started taking a different approach. And the way I like to think about it is kind of like these 4 pillars that bring up the foundation of tutorializing a game. The first pillar is teaching a mechanic. You teach people how to jump, how to double jump, how to boost. And you give them instructions on how to do it, and you give them an example on where it's used. And they do it. Awesome. And then you give people what I like to call, what the fuck did I call it? Sorry. Okay. So you have teaching. The second thing is solidifying. And solidifying is just doing it again. You give that same type of mechanic, but you don't tell them what to do. They do it themselves. So if they need to jump and you've already told them how to jump, they'll do it again, but you don't give them any prompting. And they do it again without you telling, and that's solidification. The third pillar in my brain is challenging, or to challenge. And this is the concept of, it's very similar to solidification, but do it in a slightly new way or a slightly more stressful way. Whether that is a razor saw being near you, so if you hit it, you die, or, lava, or, you're like the threat of death, or, doing it slightly different in a new way, new manner. That is the challenging part, and that brings about this feeling of, I did it, and I didn't even need to do it without any prompting or handholding. And then the fourth and final thing is combination. And that's when you add it into the repertoire of mechanics that they already know. For example, if I taught you how to boost after hitting a blue platform, then I teach you, and you already know how to double jump. Then if I put in an area where you need to double jump, then boost off of a platform, then you can do that. And that's all thanks to moving through these 4 different pillars. Now, what I was trying to do before was simply go from teach to combination. I taught you it, now immediately throw you into the wolf's pit and just figure out how to do it all together. And that's bad. Bad game design. So what I really felt like this does is it gives people footing to stand on when they're climbing up this mountain of gameplay experience, of challenge. They play a level, they learn a mechanic. They play another level, they feel like they're confident with that mechanic. They play a third level and they feel like they're doing new things with that mechanic, really solidifying and mastering the thing before moving on to the next thing. A game that is really good at doing this is Portal. Portal is, in my opinion, a masterclass on tutorialization because the entire game is essentially a tutorial. And they do a phenomenal job of just introducing mechanics at the right approach, giving you challenging moments and making you feel really smart, and then just ramping it up consistently. You don't get to the part where you start using like gel until like the last third of the game. And that's a good thing. That's because every part of that game feels good. And they can build up to that moment and not throw you into it and expect you to need to experience that for the game to stay alive. And that's a good thing about Lumina Rush, is I feel like the game doesn't need to rush into those gameplay moments where you fly around and just cruise through the level in one fell swoop. You can experience all different parts of it and it can still be fun. It's tough to really teach people the game, especially when you're making it, especially when you're a game developer and you're trying to figure out how to go back to square one, especially when you consistently playtest it. You consistently get to this level where you think this is the baseline and you can't break yourself down to become a noob at the game. And so that's why it's so huge to playtest, have playtesters playtest to see where they struggle with, what they get, what they understand, see the different types of players that are out there, and to really understand that and kind of go for what works for everyone. My game is a speedrunning game, and I hope it will reach that speedrunning audience, but also I want casual players to also be able to enjoy it. And that's why a skill ceiling is really cool, is because then a variety of people can experience it. But you have to make levels into tutorializing it in a way that makes sense, makes you feel more confident, makes you feel like a boss when you beat a level. And yeah, and I think that's what I've done with Lumina Rush right now. I feel like in a good place with where the tutorialization is. I'm going to continually look for people to play test it and keep growing with it. Side note, I have a Steam page for Lumina Rush. You can wishlist it now, and that's a fucking crazy thing. People have been wishlisting it, which is awesome. And I really hope you do too. If you like the game, if you like the videos, hopefully be making a demo of it shortly so that people can play it on Steam. And yeah, I hope you like that. So until next time, I'll see you.